the Hall of Famer, tennis broadcaster, winner of 7 majors, and a new book out called But Seriously, now available online or wherever books are sold. Making some headlines there, John. Did you know that you had made headlines?
I didn't know until I got back from L.A. last night, and I was watching some of the late-night shows, and just before that, I wanted to catch a little sports highlights, and then there's like, John McEnroe says that Serena Williams would be the, and I'm like, oh, my God.
Have you
I've
heard?
said that about I know, maybe the numbers are slightly different, and I'm not the only one, but this has been said about 100 times, so I don't know, all of a sudden they're like, he said something outrageous. And I love Serena, by the way, and they forget the other parts, which she's the greatest player ever, and all the other nice things I've said about her over the years.
Can I play the audio?
Sure.
Okay, this is from NPR, where John is being interviewed. Just to put this in context of how it came up. So
thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. This is like, being the Trump and Comey or something. The tapes. There are tapes.
Yeah, they were taping you, John. They were. Here it is.
That was on?
Here's John McEnroe.
Let's talk about Serena Williams. You say she is the best female player in the world in the book.
Best female player ever. No question.
Some wouldn't qualify it. Some would say she's the best player in the world. Why qualify it?
Oh, she's not, you mean the best player in the world, period?
Yeah, best tennis player in the world. Why say female player?
Well, because if she played the men's circuit, she'd be like 700 in the world.
You think so?
Yeah. That doesn't mean I don't think Serena's like an incredible player. I do. But there's, the reality of what would happen on a given day. Serena could beat some players, I believe, because she's so incredibly strong mentally. But if she had to just play the circuit, the men's circuit, that would be an entirely different story. So maybe at some point a women's tennis player, can be better than anybody. I mean, I haven't seen it in any other sport, and I haven't seen it in tennis. And I suppose anything's possible at some stage.
Why do people have a problem with what you said?
I don't know. They don't talk about it in other sports. I suppose when Riggs played Billie Jean back in the 70s, it's prompted this idea that we should keep doing it. It hasn't really happened, although Connors played Martina Navratilova about 20-something years ago. He only had one serve, and she had the doubles alley and beat her. And over the course of time, people, including our now president, wasn't president at the time, have offered me sums of money to play Serena or Venus. I don't know why I'm always the guy that they want to play. The old fart now that, can you still beat Serena? But at any rate, I believe I have some ability left, and I had pride when I played, and they could ask, why don't they ask her to play Roger Federer or, Rafael Nadal on clay, see how that goes.
Yeah. But would you play her for amount of money?
I never really thought that was something to mix the apples and oranges. I should probably suggest now that it might not be a bad idea if everyone's all up in arms about it.
But
Have the women play in the men's circuit, and we'll see what happens. Let them all play for the next 2 years and see what the rankings are. And as far as, I talk about it in this book a little bit. Obviously, you haven't read it, Dan, but that's okay.
I just got it.
Well, you just got it a minute ago, so I forgive you.
Yeah.
But
I love the pictures in there, though.
My own kids. I have 4 girls and 2 boys, so I've become a great feminist over the years, so Anna would be happy about that. But they don't think I can beat her. And there's a lot of people that don't think I can beat her at this stage, and I'm not quite as sure as I was a couple of years ago. She's a tremendous player and one of the great athletes, period, of the 20th century, for sure.
But don't you think it's this 700 number is what bothered people?
Maybe that's what it is. I mean, what do you think she'd be? You like sports? You follow tennis. What number do you think she'd be?
Okay, we're talking about who could she beat. If I pulled out the 250th ranked player right now, I think she has a great chance because she's been in that moment. The 250 ranked person hasn't. So I want to see what you do with the build-up to it, the hype to it. You get out there, center court. Now, I'm not talking about on tour.
I completely agree, which is what I said. You know, if you listen to what I said she could beat a handful of people who would choke and get, overwhelmed by the occasion. And then there's other times where she wouldn't be feeling it, and there'd be a 17-year-old guy who's the #1 guy in it's one part of the world that would beat her. And there's college players. I get pros at my club. I got 37 pros at my club at Randall's Island. And there's 6, I like to get out and play, and there's 6 or 7 guys in a given day, maybe more, I'd lose to, and there'd be 1,000 people I'd lose to now. And also, you got to bring in, if you actually want to analyze this. Is she going to play best of 5?
No, I know.
In the majors for starters? I mean, how would that go over? She's never done that. It's like me. I play a set now against Roddick on the Champions Tour, and I'm exhausted. So now they want me to play 2 out of 3. It would be 2. And I maybe can play 2 sets. I'd have to beat Serena or whoever else in 2 sets because I fall over in the third set.
But I hate when we start to do this compare and contrast when it comes to women. And
why don't you do it in basketball, or why don't they do it in hockey, or why don't they do it in running or boxing for that matter? That's where they'd at least be the same weight class. You'd think it'd be a leveler playing field. Why is it always tennis and it's always McEnroe that gets caught in the middle of this? It drives me crazy.
Well, in fairness to you, you got led down that road.
I did.
By the host
thank you
on
for
NPR.
Thank you for playing that, because people are, why did you bring that up? You just want to sell books? I mean, I guess I do want to. I'd like the books to hopefully be successful, but that's not the reason. I wasn't planning on bringing it up, and I've been in there 5 different occasions when my kids were born, and it's a magnificent experience. I'm sure you well know yourself. And I wish Serena the best. And when whatever she tweeted, I think she tweeted, because I don't tweet, but whatever it was, don't stress me out. I'm just having a kid, leave me. I mean, I want nothing for the best for Serena. She's been, without Serena, and to a lesser extent Venus, the sport of tennis in America would really be struggling.
But the argument could be the most decorated tennis player of all time. If you want to do it in that context, then, most successful.
Her story is one of the great stories in tennis history, these sisters.
Yeah.
I mean, my brother and I played a couple times, and I think that Venus was a great help to Serena's career, the way she handled it, because I would have jumped off the Empire State Building if I lost a little bro.
Did you ever lose to your brother?
No, of course not. In practice... but we only played a couple times. But I knew it was weird and difficult, and it shouldn't have been. And she handled it amazingly well. And Serena's, she's one of the truly great athletes in the last 100 years, and their story is amazing.
There you go. That's all you needed to say.
Thank you. I've said that before.
You threw out the 700 number, and that's what got you in trouble.
Yeah.
What are you going to say when you see her, when you have a baby gift for her, and you see her? What do you say?
I'm going to buy her 700 roses.
Ooh.
Is that okay?
I like that. Well, wait, is it 699 or is it 700? Could she beat the 700 rank?
I think that if you take 700 people, there's probably 10 people or 15 possibly on a given day that she could have some success with, because of the very reason she's been there, and she's been under pressure situations way more than they have. But there's no question. But we'll move past this. I think this will all be history in a day or so. That's the good part. I've been through some things with Serena, mostly good, and sometimes this comes up and it's annoying when it happens, but I suppose it's better than not being talked about at all, I suppose. And good night, everyone. Thanks for having me. I mean,
who's the best men's player of all time?
The best men's player of all time would be Roger Federer, with a slight edge over Rafael Nadal. I would have given Rafa a couple of years ago, but consistency overall, Roger's been there more. I know that Rafa's record's better. If Rafa had won that match in Australia, where he was 3-1 up in the 5th in the finals, that would have maybe had me inch slightly ahead again. But, both of them are amazing. Rod Laver was my idol growing up, so I always put him in the mix. Sampras was the toughest guy I ever had to play against, only a couple times. He would be in that group of 4, maybe. And then after that, it's hopefully, hopefully I'm still somewhere. I know my ranking's dropping pretty painfully. Hopefully I'm in the top 10 still.
What about if Borg had continued to play? Yeah. He retired at what, 26?
25 or 6.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, well, it was amazingly sad to me, because he was my great rival, and then he walked away from the game, and I kept trying to get him to come back. I was like, look, we made each other better. This is an incredible time in tennis. Don't do this. And she said, someday you'll understand. I've had that twice. My ex-wife told me that she said, someday you'll understand and you'll even appreciate what I'm doing. And Borg said it. And I think both times it's too bad. In the case of Tatum, I lucked out because I'm with Patty Smythe the past 23 years, and I did get the second chance that I didn't think I'd have. In Borg's case, I sort of had to accept that he wasn't coming back, but I never felt it was the same in the sport in a way again.
He looked like this, there was a cat-like quality to it. When he went to Wimbledon and he started to grow the beard, Was that intimidating at all? The headband, the whole board?
Well, the look was amazing. You know, I just wanted to look a little bit like him, as good as him. There's no question that there was this aura. I noticed when I was 14 or 15, when he was playing one of his first Wimbledons, outside the locker room, there were literally like 250 girls screaming, like the equivalent of tennis version of Beatlemania. I was like, I want to be a tennis player. Please, God, let me have just 1/20th of this.
Did you ever have women outside your locker room screaming for you?
My mom was screaming at me.
Did you have groupies?
I did not have people screaming at me. I mean, maybe screaming in the different type of screaming. Not to say that there weren't some people around and that we didn't have, it wasn't fortunate in that way, but nowhere near the level of Bjorn. I mean, it was like when I used to be with my late great buddy Vitas Gerulaitis. They'd roll out the red carpet for him in Studio 54. I couldn't get in. I'm the number 5 in the world. They get the hell out of here. So I needed to develop more hunger, but I thought to myself, listen, I just gotta. One of the best things ever about Vitas, I played him my first major I won in the finals. We were both 2 kids from Queens, and that was weird because I looked up to Vitas as a kid. We were at the same tennis academy, so I sort of didn't really want to beat him, but I wanted to win. And then afterwards, for him, 24, me 20. Having to have some upstart sort of bypass him, and that after the match, he said, "What are you doing later?" And I figured he'd probably be going to like Studio 54, and I go, "Whatever you're doing, because I know what you're doing is a hell of a lot better than what I was going to do."
Yeah, but you said you couldn't get into Studio 54, and Andy Warhol ruined your sex life.
You know that papers come a bit of an exaggeration,
Okay.
but when you get after Studio 54, some of these parties, you go to a friend's place where you figured, okay, you can unwind and really relax, let your guard down.
But 54 was crazy.
54 is crazy, but I'm talking about after that.
Oh, the after party.
The after party. After that, you go to some friend's house and you could let the guard down. You don't expect it at Studio 54 outside, but you could let it down. You're hoping you might get lucky, and then here's this guy with that fright wig taking a picture, and I'm like, what is he doing? It's 3 in the morning.
Did he ever paint you?
He did paint me and my ex-wife. There's a couple paintings he did where he came over. He said everything's fantastic, everything's great. If he didn't say that, you were the biggest jerk that ever lived. Because he said, "Hey, fantastic, it's fantastic." And I was like, look, I don't quite understand this guy, but what do I know? I mean, look, if you walk down the streets of New York now and you just ask the average person, name 2 artists, they're going to say Pablo Picasso and Andy Warhol. Yeah. So he's there, the pantheon of artists.
Do you still have the painting?
I have one of them. I actually looked for a third because I had 3 kids with my ex-wife. I couldn't get one because I heard sometimes he ran off others. I ended up selling one at charity. I raised a lot of money, and I gave it to Habitat for Humanity because I was a big Jimmy Carter fan, and I didn't feel it would be right to take the money because when we got divorced, I said to Tatum, I said, look, there's 2 of these. Why don't you take one, and I'll take the other? And she said she didn't want them. I'm like, okay. At that time, it wasn't necessarily considered how valuable it was, and I'm sure she didn't want to look at me. And I also, it's not something I can hang in the living room now, the other one with Patty.
With your wife.
So it sort of sits in storage.
Yeah.
So I sold that one. I thought I'd get this call from Jimmy Carter because he was a big hero of mine, and he'd say, come down and let's get together. And then I got a letter eventually, sort of to whom it may concern letter. And I was like, and Patty said to me, look, you can't ever expect anything. I mean, if you expect it or think that that's just because you donated $400,000, which seemed like a lot of money, the price of this painting, $409,000. But it didn't work out, but that's okay. I learned a lesson from it.
We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about the book, some music, replay. Isn't that one of your favorite topics to talk about, replay?
Replay? Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah, I mean, if I would have been a lot better player.
We have an idea.
But I would have been more boring.
We have. And you brought your guitar.
I did bring it. You're the only guy that asked me to bring it. Most people say don't bring the guitar.
Does your wife ever say don't play?
Yes, all the time.
Okay.
She says, now she's at least says, just don't sing. I'll let you play some guitar, just don't sing. So I may even possibly sing.
No, I want you to sing. All
right, unless you play guitar, don't you?
No, I don't.
Oh.
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I know good guitars when I hear them.
Well, then you're not going to be hearing one in a few minutes.
The book is called But Seriously. It's available online wherever books are sold. We're back with more from John McEnroe after this. is John McEnroe.
It's a tough song to
John
sing.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that's, for me, that was okay, actually.
You were cringing.
Believe
as
it or not.
You're
Yeah.
listening to yourself. You're cringing a little bit
I mean,
there.
Kurt Cobain, I mean, just that's one of the, that song, I mean, changed a lot of things.
Yeah, it did.
25 years ago.
John's new book is But Seriously now available online and wherever books are sold. All right, we have a TV show idea for you. What if we went back to look at all of the points that you argued about? We had replay there, and just to see if you actually were telling you were.
Could we do that?
Being fair. Yeah, why not?
That's not a bad idea.
Well, wait, is it a good idea or just not a bad idea?
It's a good idea. I like that idea.
But I'd like to know if you were actually, accurate here. That you were the one that we should have been saying.
I'm probably the 700th most accurate guy in the world.
But there are moments where you probably knew that it was out, or that you shouldn't be arguing. But
that's on the seniors tour now that I play.
Oh, you're doing that?
We do that, and we do that.
Fun with
that's I get paid extra for this now.
You do?
Yeah. So that way I have to do this. They encourage me to do this, even when I know damn well I'm wrong. And sometimes these guys use it to get a little breather. When they've had a long. It's not just for the call. I mean, most of the time the players know they're right, or they know what it's going to be beforehand. There's only a handful of calls in a set.
But do you ever try to get into somebody's head when you're actually younger doing
Well, I always figured that if a guy was going to be bothered that much by me, if I said to an umpire, you mother, what are the odds of him giving me the next call? I would say slim and none, right?
Yeah.
So the other guy should be happy that I've just told this guy that his mother wears army boots.
Yeah.
And so I was surprised at the way people were like, oh, he's just doing this to try to throw them off. If that's all it takes to throw someone off, with all the trash talking you hear in football or basketball or the other sports, come on.
Did you ever get close to fighting somebody?
I wanted to fight Connors a few times. I figured that would be one of the few guys I could beat.
You could beat up Connors?
I thought I could. I'm not saying
I don't know.
I know he was a bit of a street fighter, but I was willing to get bloodied for that.
Not on the court, but like meet him in
off the court.
Anywhere.
I was going to strangle this guy. Absolutely. And I'm sure that he felt the same way. And we respect each other now, and we can laugh about it. But at the time, we definitely didn't like each other. And there were a few times where I was like, I'm going to walk off this court. I'm going to punch him in the face.
Were you similar?
We were similar. He was someone who looked at me and didn't want me to take his turf. And we were like two bulls going at it, and the opposite of me and Borg, or him and Borg. And it was electric, though, in a way. I mean, every time I looked at Connors, I said to myself, am I trying as hard as this guy? I mean, I had the ultimate respect for what he brought to the table. I kept checking to see if he had a twin brother named Pete Rose. But at any rate...
with the haircut, you mean?
The haircut, the bowl cut, the way they played, everything about him. But the intensity that he brought was... I had to improve at that, to try harder, to dig deeper. That's the only way I could play with him. So he definitely taught me a lot in that respect.
All right, you brought your guitar.
Can I take my jacket off?
Yeah, you can.
Okay?
Yeah, okay. You got your...
Because I got a lot of buttons, so...
You got your Keith Richards T-shirt on.
Yeah.
But you haven't played with the Stones, have you?
I haven't played with the Stones. I played with Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders once when she opened for the Stones at Madison Square Garden, which was awesome. So that's the closest I've ever come to playing, although Bill Wyman, the old bass player of the Stones, did actually have me in his hotel room a couple times and try to teach me the guitar and or bass, because he was a bass player. Yeah. So that's about that. I'm better as a guitar player than I was. That's not, the bar is extremely low than when I started. So I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
Let me grab this.
Okay. You grab your guitar. What are you going to...
This is a song by Green Day.
All right. Are you going to sing?
I'm going to try to sing. Hopefully I'm in tune. You know the song Good Riddance? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I did this especially for you, Dan.
Okay, all right.
Are we short on time, or we got a minute or two? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I wrote this especially for you.
You did?
Yeah, I thought about this last night when I came into L.A., and I thought it'd be appropriate. This is a song I wrote. It's about, it's a Green Day song, but I wrote it with Nick words, the New York Nick words.
Oh, I like it.
Okay?
Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
John McEnroe.
Another turning point, a fork up in the road. What do we do with mellow now that Phil doesn't want to stay home. I still believe, or at least I can hope, that the Knicks don't keep being the butt of everyone's joke. Something unpredictable in the end. I hope he's right, but Phil, don't trade Porzingis tonight. But Phil, don't trade Porzingis tonight. Thank you.
Well done. Well done. That's going to be a hit.
I think it's got some legs. I don't know how the Knicks. I still got hope. It's a tough one right now, but this whole thing has gotten a bit crazy. But I'm a long-suffering Knicks fan. I love it. I thought they were going to win 50 games this year. I was wrong about that. I've got a soft spot for my buddy. Yannick Noah is a great buddy of mine, and Joakim to be at the Knicks was amazing. I know it's been torturous for him.
Weren't you there when Oakley got ushered out?
I was there. He pushed me on the shoulder. He was like, "Hey, John, how are you?" And I was, "Charles." I couldn't believe it. He looked natty. He's in tremendous shape as always. I introduced him to my son, and the next thing you know, things just spiraled totally out of control. I didn't know what had happened. I heard a commotion because the security guy came over, and I said to Kevin, I think someone's heckling Phil Jackson. Because we didn't know what was heckling, but they told Jim Dolan that someone, was being heckled. And the next thing you know, well, you have to go to commercial, right?
You're not going to be subpoenaed here?
I don't know.
Because is there
I know the next day, Charles like, ask Johnny Mack. He knows what happened. I'm like, wait, don't throw me in the middle of this, okay?
All of a sudden, you climb up.
Jim, and the guys at the Knicks, they have. It's amazing. Amazingly lucky that I get a couple times a year, a handful to go to the Knicks as a guy who grew up a Knicks fan, and to see Charles Oakley going on. The whole thing was obviously terrible for everyone.
He's John McEnroe. The book is called But Seriously, is now available online and wherever books are sold. It's great that you came in.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
If you have an encore.
I'm gonna leave.
You can go out as
it's better to leave
okay.
on a high. Less is more, I believe.
Yeah. So don't say anything about Serena right now.
I should have, but the second verse should have been Serena.
The book is But Seriously. John McEnroe. John, thank you for coming in.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.